in the history of the world has there ever been a podcast dedicated to professional football and professional wrestling? Maybe. Anyway, this is the Wrestling with Football podcast with Matt Simone and Grant Sawyer.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wrestling with Football podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things professional football and professional wrestling related. I'm your host, Matt Simone, and joined with me, as always, the technical director for CWF Mid-Atlantic in Gibsonville, North Carolina, Grant Sawyer. What's up, bud?
Hey, buddy. Good to see you again there. Good to speak with you. We're talking about wrestling and football, so first thing we should mention is the World Series, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. And how that is, I think that the Cubs are cooked. But, we'll see what happens in Cleveland. It's going to be awfully hard for them to win 2 or 3 in a row, I guess we should say. But anyway, you are messing me up already, Grant. Folks,
I know.
If I sound a little weird to you right now, it's because I am extremely under the weather. I just came back from Roanoke, Virginia. I went to the Martinsville Goodies 500 this past Sunday, and got to experience my very first cup race at the historic Martinsville Speedway, and it was a blast. But due to the weather difference, and it's not that big of a difference, but I did end up standing out my first night there in about like a 55-degree weather, and I was just freezing my ass off, and no one else was. So that tells me now I'm full-on Floridian.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I am well enough, however, to talk about the just ridiculous Week 8 slate of football. I can tell you right now that Grant and I can speak for him, we're pissed. This wasn't a good week for us. Would you agree?
Oh, no. I actually, you know what? I think it was actually worse for you than it was for me, just because we were so injury-plagued. And the fact that we put up 32 points with the offense that we put on the field, there's a little bit of positivity to take away from that. But, y'all went down to Dallas and didn't have as many excuses, I guess, to be able to use for your loss.
No, the most glaring thing coming out of the Sunday night football game between the Eagles and the Cowboys is definitely the drops of the wide receivers in the first half that really stalled, hampered, whatever you want to call it, a couple drives for the Eagles. And it's the defense also. There's just so many things last night that were really getting on my nerves. One thing though that I will say after this week, and maybe you'll agree with me, the officiating this season has been atrocious.
Man, I see a whole lot of pass interference that doesn't get called, but at the same time, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been called then either. I try not to get too much on the officials, especially, I lived through the Hail Mary and all that. So it's like, it can't get but so bad in my eyes. But, yeah, by and large, it's worse, but still, I know it could be even worse if we didn't have who we have.
Yeah. Some of the highlights coming out of Sunday's slate of games is Josh Norman's complaints to the officials, Cam Newton's complaints to the officials. Cam Newton says he's not having fun anymore, and every single week I am beginning to agree with you more and more about him. I don't, if he keeps, whining, for one, he's going to really get laid out one of these weeks. But secondly, he's not going to last in the NFL, with these types of complaints. And if he's not having fun now after, in his 6th year, it's going to, he's probably not going to have fun ever again.
Yeah, I've always thought, his his emotional highs are too high. His emotional lows are way too low. There's no middle ground, but I think this is the first time I've ever seen it where he's this emotionally low after a win. If you watched that press conference, you thought they lost the game, not defeated the Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. And they beat the Cardinals. That's a whole other thing to it. Now that one,
like if you
go ahead.
It really felt like, from his perspective, the story was the referees, not the team victory.
Yeah, and that's also one of those situations too where, Ron Rivera, knows he's upset, and he needs to get a hold of him and be like, hey, look, let me handle this. Don't run your mouth. It's just going to be worse if you do. Alex Smith this past week got smoked twice. The first time I thought he was done, for the year. Then they bring him back in, Mick Foley, a la Hell in a Cell, 98. And you have him brought down to the turf, and I don't remember who it was that hit him, but the defender's hand pressed his head to the ground and bounced it off of the ground in a violent manner.
I don't even blame that on the Colts. I mean, it's amazing that he was even allowed back in the game, but plenty of guys are. But the fact that he scrambled at all after that, the fact that he was doing anything other than throwing it away is amazing to me.
Yeah, he came back in and threw a touchdown pass after the initial hit.
Oh yeah. No. Come on. Yeah. But I'm saying the fact that he did not. Scrambling should never have been an option in any scenario, unless maybe the goal line is right there.
Right. The Raiders had 23 penalties called against them in one game, which is an NFL record. I don't know if any teams have 23 penalties to this point.
Probably not. Did you watch any of that? Because it was amazing how many times the Raiders could have won that game and blew it, and finally in the end they won the thing.
Yeah, Derek Carr, he threw for 500 yards, which is not easy to do, whether you're throwing the ball 30 times or 62 times or whatever. But yeah, no, I didn't get to see any of that game. I actually missed the 1 o'clock games because I was at the race, and service for any non-sprint users is killed at the races. So if you don't have sprint, you can't do anything, which kind of sucks. So yeah, I was in the dark for the 1 o'clock games. But getting back to the officiating, I mean, Grant, I understand that there's holding on every single play in some manner, but last night the Dallas Cowboys mauled the Eagles' front four. I mean, we're wrestling them to the ground by the jersey. If you watch that last catch for Jason Witten in overtime, oh my God, Doug Free has Vinny Curry, has both of his shoulder pads, is holding on to them. People were like, oh, Dak had so much time to throw that touchdown pass. Bullshit. Everybody was holding everyone. And it got really frustrating for me last night because once I saw it a couple times and it didn't get called, then I just kept looking for it and I kept seeing it. And of course, me being in the, delirious state that I was last night, being ill, it really compounded everything. And it was a frustrating night, for sure.
Wasn't going into last night that officiating crew the crew that had thrown more penalties than any other crew?
Yeah.
That's what it...
Yeah.
Okay.
Dorial Green Beckham, who sucks ass, and they need to cut him. Can't catch a ball to save his life or a cold. And there was one play where he got called for a push-off, and we got some Premier League soccer by the Cowboys secondary with the dive that he took on that play. And that cost us a first down. I mean, You know, it was just a typical, when the Eagles lose to the Cowboys, that's how they lose to them. It's very rare that the Eagles get straight smoked by them. So yeah, last night was just terrible. And we're going to, as Eagles fans, we're going to look back on this game as one of two things. The beginning of like a 9-game slide, or the game that cost them a playoff spot. I really believe that, because that was a bad loss, man. They should have beaten them. There's no way against a divisional opponent when you're on the road and you've got them 20-10 with the defense that they have, and they just backed off completely. They blitz, and then they just went back to the 4-man rush, which they'd done most of the year. But still, they took their foot off the gas and paid for it. Did you watch any of the game?
I was going back and forth between it and the pay-per-view and the World Series, actually. So it was like a lot of things had my attention divided between everything that was on last night.
Sure, yeah. It was definitely a busy night for anybody who is into sports and professional wrestling. That's for sure. But yeah, the Packers and Eagles definitely tried to outdo one another by seeing how bad of a loss a team can suffer. And I agree with you. The Eagles definitely, win yesterday for the biggest shit-taking of the week. The Chargers can't score touchdowns in the second half, which ultimately cost them yesterday.
Yeah, that was the worst offensive performance I've seen that team have all year. And I mean, Denver was ready to get beat yesterday. They brought virtually nothing to the table. And if it wasn't for that defense, which, I mean, I guess is going to be the case in plenty of Broncos games, if it wasn't for that defense, they would have never been in the game.
I could go ahead and go over like so many Eagles from last night to get the Andy Dalton commemorative primetime award, but I got to go all the way back to Thursday night. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a disheveled group of football players right now. They are a mess. And they are, at the end of the day, who we all know, think they are, to quote Dennis Green. They are trash, man. Like, they're bad. And they've
won. But they shouldn't be.
I know. And this is why I think it's because of, what's the head coach's name? Gus Bradley?
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a mid-season change with Jacksonville. I have a feeling they're going to let him go.
He's probably more on the hot seat than Hugh Jackson is in Cleveland right now.
Yeah, and that's that's a whole other thing, man. Cleveland, they haven't won a game, but they've shown up a few weeks. The Jags, They hadn't shown up, man. I mean, that was just a bad game. And it seemed like they just totally quit near the end of the first half. And the final score definitely did not reflect on how bad of an ass-kicking Tennessee put to them. And not only that, but Tennessee is a lot better than I thought they were. They might make a little noise.
I mean, in that god-awful division, they might as well win the thing.
You saw today Andre Johnson retired.
Yes. Right after Arian Foster.
Yeah, so you have two Texan legends. Well, Johnson more so than Foster. And right now I would say that Andre Johnson is the greatest Texan that ever lived, but J.J. Watt still has plenty of time to...
I think J.J. will leave with that on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the Patriots are going to lose again.
Dude. I don't know what their schedule is, but I
don't think they're going to lose again, because that's a machine there. Especially, Buffalo doesn't have, their defense isn't anything to, rub your nose at, but they just wore them out yesterday, apparently, from what I read and saw in the highlights. But overall,
you saw the highlight of the fan tossing the object, right?
What happened? No, I didn't.
Are you not there was a play near the goal line, and a Bills fan tosses if we're going to keep it somewhat PG, a women's pleasure device onto the field, and the referees have to remove it.
Is this I mean, this has to be available.
Oh, dude, I found the guy on Twitter earlier today, the guy that threw it. He was doing an interview with some podcast or something about it.
Oh my God.
It was clearly seen on television.
All right, I'm bringing it up now. Just so I can see here. Oh my God. It's a rocket ship. Have you ever seen Death to Smoochie?
Oh my God, I know the movie, but I've never watched it.
Oh man, yeah. That's well then, you wouldn't get that joke.
It's a random movie to bring up.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I'm sick, so there you go.
Right.
Well, looking on to week 9, the Falcons, who beat the Pack on Sunday. I have a feeling Tampa Bay might give them a little bit of trouble.
Oh yeah, because Tampa Bay, I mean, has enough offense, and the Falcons really haven't stopped anyone. They've just outscored everybody this year, and I believe Tampa is actually going to be without Jacquizz Rodgers in this game, but even whatever the guy's name is on their third string running back has gotten some carries lately and has looked pretty good in the short amount of time he's had. Yeah,
I agree with you. The Titans come into San Diego as one of the 3 4:00 games. That'll be an interesting matchup to see if the Chargers can. The Chargers were on the road this past week, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get to go back home, and the Titans they're like we were talking about earlier, man. I think that they're a team that is on the rise and could end up stealing that division because, I mean, anybody can win it except for the Browns. Wait.
Oh, wrong division.
Wrong division. All right. Sorry, fans.
The medicine.
NyQuil. Yeah. The Colts and Packers at the beginning of the season, this looked like a delicious matchup. Now this looks like if Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw 400 yards, something's wrong here.
Dude, the Colts defense is atrocious. When you get blown out by Kansas City, I mean, what are you doing out there, guys? Who knows what the Packers are going to put on the field as far as wide receivers? I have no idea at this point if we have Cobb or Montgomery, but I mean, Rodgers can obviously make a wide receiver out of peanut butter and jelly. So I mean, we'll score some points on the Colts. God knows.
Sure. I mean, Jeff Janis got a little love this past week, so it was good to see him out there.
Trevor Davis came out of nowhere.
Who did?
Trevor Davis came out of nowhere.
It's by committee there, man. It's like running back, wide receiver by committee. It always seems that way. There's always one guy that's like there all year.
You saw that we traded for Niles Davis,
and then you released him.
And we him today, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Good draft pick there.
Yeah, good draft pick. What did you guys give up for him? Like a conditional or what?
Yeah. It was a late round.
Yeah. Well, that was I read that this morning. I was like, oh my God, that was a quick stay. Let's see here. What other games do we got going on this week? The Lions and Vikings. That should be an interesting matchup in Minnesota, especially if Minnesota ends up getting beat on this Halloween night in Chicago. Chicago, by the way, wearing my favorite Bears jerseys.
I have no favorite Bears jerseys.
I know you don't. The Eagles travel to the Giants. I mean, it's a disaster.
That screams like a. I don't even know if you can even call it a trap game at this point.
For who?
Sure seems like a. Yeah, I know. Well, exactly. But that seems like a recipe for disaster.
That if that doesn't end up being like a pick 'em, who knows? But yeah, I definitely I got a bad feeling about that one. Where the Eagles struggled this past week to hold on to a lead and end up losing in overtime. I got a feeling the Giants might wear them out. The Sunday night game is gonna be awesome. Denver at Oakland.
Oh yeah.
Battle for first place. Oh man, the black hole will be going crazy. I'm really looking forward to that game.
Why is that game not tonight on Halloween in the black hole?
Right, exactly. Yeah, no kidding, man. This goes back to like the first episode of the podcast where we were talking about teams that need to play on Halloween.
Yes,
No Saints, no Saints, no Raiders, no Bengals. Yeah. Oh well, they're really screwing it up here for us. But anyway, yeah. So that's your Week 9 slate. Also, Steelers Ravens. I should mention that's another 1:00 matchup that is always not a fun game to watch live, but I always get a kick of seeing the highlights because those teams hate the hell out of each other. But let's move on now to the Pape last night. 5 total hours of WWE programming with the pre-show and the pay-per-view itself, and then the after show. I thought that the performances in the cell matches were pretty good, but hear me out here. I found them all, well, except for the main event, I found the 2 others like pointless because the cage is supposed to act as a barrier so that however many people can have it out, or so that, you have a group of guys in the match that, can just have it out with like no interference. And not only that, but the cage is a damn weapon. And I felt like in moments last night, they were totally taking the whole idea of what a cage match should be and just like, ruining everything. I wasn't really a big fan of Jericho interfering in the cell match, even though the crowd wanted it so bad. I didn't really like that. And then the first Hell in the Cell match, I love Rusev, but that match it would have been the same match without a cage, and I feel the same way kind of about the Rollins Steen match, except for the table spot on the outside, which was pretty cool. But what were your thoughts on the 3 cage matches?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you 100% on that stuff. It was Rusev Reigns was just a street fight weapons match that just happened to have a cage surrounding it, but it had no bearing on the actual match.
Right.
Rollins and Owens, my biggest takeaway from Rollins and Owens is that it just, except for when they were going home, the crowd's just not behind Rollins. They just don't buy into him as this savior babyface. It just felt like 2 heels going at it. And the biggest babyface in the whole thing is Jericho, which is none of it's the dynamic they wanted.
Right, exactly. I totally agree with you on that. If they want Rollins to be over more as a babyface, don't have him do the pedigree.
It was too late. The biggest thing is it's just too late. Like they put, like Rollins. It's funny. I was thinking about this last night when they finally split the Shield up and they made the call to go with Rollins as the heel. Those 3 guys, the way their careers went from that point forward, and if they had, because there was a legitimate discussion of turning Ambrose, and I'm sure there was some discussion of turning Reigns. Like the past would have been so drastically different to where we are today. I mean, it's one of those Marvel Comics what if things.
Sure.
But it's like some decisions they make have no long-term effects. That was such a major decision to turn Rollins heel initially, and that still reverberates to this day.
Yeah, because he was so damn good. That's why.
Yeah.
Because he was so awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. The women's match, outside of the finish, I mean, that match was awesome. I think that they did everything they needed to do. Again, I want to see more like cage play, but in this day, I think that they kind of look at like your quote smart wrestling fans and think, well, if they're going to start bashing each other's heads in the cage, they're going to want blood, and we just can't do that. So,
I was genuinely wondering if they were going to do the blood thing for their match, just because of that kind of historical talk and whatnot, and they have gone the route of blood, obviously, here and there. So it wouldn't have shocked me. I really wanted the girls to have an awesome match, and I think a lot of people wanted it so much that they viewed the match with rose-colored glasses, where when it was all said and done, they viewed it as this epic 5-star encounter where realistically it was nowhere close to that.
Absolutely not. I totally agree with you there. I don't think that's the best match that the two of them have had.
No.
Honestly, the last few Raw matches they've had against one another have been pretty damn good. And the reason why they got the main event at Hell in the Cell. But it just seemed there was a lot of things that were forced. The setup for the powerbomb on the outside in the very beginning of the match was, that took a minute.
You know what? I want to talk about this because this drove me nuts watching it. Whoever agented the thing, there was a bunch of good ideas, but like the setup, was off psychologically. And this is getting too, probably too inside baseball, I guess is the term they use.
Right.
But Charlotte was the one that initiated the climbing, and then Sasha went up. It should have just been Sasha, calling, making it clear that it was her idea to go up, and as soon as she starts going up, Charlotte's the one that cuts her off and does the powerbomb right there.
No.
They did all this back and forth garbage that wasn't needed.
Yeah, no, I think that the way I would have set that up would have been, like you said, have Sasha initiate the climbing and have Charlotte come after her and have her kick her off a few times, and Charlotte place herself right underneath her and have Sasha go for a Rana on the outside and she catch her, pick her back up, and then powerbomb her. That's how I would have done it.
Well, I'm with you, except that I don't think Sasha can jump off under her own power her, because her mission is to reach the top.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to have the heel, actually take it away from her.
There was one point in the match, though, where I was watching Charlotte, and I was like, if they're, it's been a while since we've had a second-generation wrestler that is Rhodes, or she's a Flair. I mean, when she was working her over in the corner with the chops, that was callback city, man. That really felt like that old school. Flair's got the baby in the corner, and now his chops are starting to have an effect, because in the beginning of every match, almost every guy he wrestled, in the first 5 minutes, he'd try to chop him, and it wouldn't work, but then it starts to wear him out, and I felt like, that just had that kind of that old school vibe to it, and I dug that, and I also dug the fact that, Charlotte's strong, man, and she threw Sasha around there like a rag doll. Now, was it safe in some cases? No. But still, it definitely had its effect. It worked. But the finish of the match, as people found out through rumor wires, whether this is true or not, apparently Sasha was supposed to win the match, and last minute Vince said no, even though going into the match, I was like, she's wrestling in Boston, her hometown, defending the title. She ain't winning.
But she should have. I mean, it's just good business to put the babyface over there, but...
Sure.
Whatever.
So...
How many times have we seen it done over the years?
Right, exactly. But it'd been a while since a finish was changed, and, you could tell. I mean, all she did was throw her on top of a table twice, and then... what we didn't see very well was she hit that Mr. Perfect neck snap on her and pinned her.
Yeah, natural selection, yeah.
Yeah, the natural selection, but they didn't call it, which I am blaming the commentary crew for that. Even though everything was kind of happening fast, and I'm sure that the commentary crew were hearing the change in their ear as well.
Well, I'm sure the table was supposed to break too for the big visual, but that table was just at the wrong angle, and at the same time, I just don't know if Sasha has the body weight to be going through tables.
Yeah, unless you set it at an angle and she falls into the table with her. Yeah, I don't think Sasha, even the announce table, Sasha, barely broke it. You got to really slam her down to do that, and that's dangerous. What else stood out?
In the girls' match?
No, in the pay-per-view altogether.
Their complete, I don't even know what the proper word of it is. Just the I don't want to say giving up on the cruiserweight division, but the way it has been brought down to the level it is at now, as opposed to the night T.J. Perkins won that championship. It is dropped like a rock, and that is so sad. And it's all this forced video game stuff, the forced French, and none of it feels natural. And that was the thing about that tournament, is everything felt so natural.
Yeah, it really just says, it tells me that they're not clicking with the Raw fans. And I think that the cruiserweights would be best served with their own show.
Well, but you have to present it in a way to make it digestible to the Raw fans.
Well, they're not giving them anything. They're not giving them any story or anything. It seems like I feel like T.J. Perkins and Brian Kendrick have wrestled each other like 16 times on television since CJ won the title. And then last night, Brian Kendrick won it, but it was not, it didn't feel like, he should have already won it to begin with if they were going to do that.
See, I don't think it's necessarily a matter of, their own show as much as you just have to educate these, the 3 million fans or whatever, all the, the 50 to 75% that did not watch the Cruiserweight Classic. You have to educate them. You can't just assume they know the deal, and you have to present it in that same fashion. Because I can't imagine, I don't care who you are. If you watch the presentation of that Cruiserweight Classic, how can you not get emotionally invested in what they were presenting? And I feel like that would be the exact same scenario on Raw, but they never presented it as such.
Yeah, they've presented it as just another wrestling match on Raw, whereas, in the Cruiserweight Classic, they had the referee in the ring at the end of the match raising the hand to the winner, and doing all that kind of stuff to give it kind of that MMA feel. And that set that tournament apart from everything that was going on. And now, like you said, I think it's just become just another thing, almost sort of like the original lightweight title, you have your lightweight title match on Raw and they do a bunch of wild shit and then you forget about them until next week. I thought the 6-man tag was pretty good, but that
well, what
again
does it mean?
felt, yeah, exactly. It's just like it's more like just a feature. Did you notice last night?
Go ahead.
How Michael Cole a couple times caught himself calling it a match and then corrected himself and called it an event. Have you noticed this?
I didn't notice that. Even in CWF, we make sure to never call anything a show, because a show is like a circus or something you go to see. So we try to use the term event, but we've never corrected ourselves from saying a match.
Right.
And change that to event.
Michael Cole did that. He did that in the women's event, and he did that again earlier on in the night. And I thought that was interesting. I also think it's really funny how they make sure that they say Hell in a Cell every time they say it, not Hell in a Cell, as we've always called it. The enunciation.
Now, is it? But wasn't the original one Hell in the Cell?
Is it
not
Hell?
A Cell?
Was the original one Hell in the Cell? Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think you're right.
So how many Hell in the Cells have there been, and how many Hell in a Cells have there been?
Right. Yeah. That's an interesting bit of historical research that we could do to find out.
Much like Clash of Champions versus Clash of the Champions.
Right. Exactly. I'm trying to think of something else. I'm like the New Day. They're another group that's kind of just like. They have those belts and they don't mean shit because they're not doing anything with them.
And they're going to break Demolition's record just because.
Just because they've held it this long, why not? Yeah. But that definitely calls for Demolition to make an appearance on WWE programming.
I mean, I think New Day should be appearing as Demolition on the Raw Halloween, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't even know what they're doing with that tonight. They should.
Well,
Their Halloween show should be everybody doing everyone else's gimmick. You saw John Cena and Nikki Bella, right?
God, I'm sorry I did. All I know is Enzo and Cass did not come out as Shawn and Diesel, so I got major heat with that.
Yeah. But they're another act that's kind of like, why aren't they the tag champs? They came in.
I love Enzo's. Enzo's one of the best promos I've ever heard.
Sure.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, they came in so hot. And they've remained, pretty popular. But, man, they should have strapped them up right away. And the club, too. Same thing, It's like, what are they doing with the tag division?
Hey, just random. Did you ever watch the promo Enzo cut backstage at the Cruiserweight Classic? They put it up on YouTube during the summer, and it was about, kind of his views on politics.
No,
Dude, you have to watch it. Once I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this guy, there's nobody like this guy. It blew my mind.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. So now we're done with Hell in A Cell.
Who knows?
Yeah, right. Who knows? Moving on. So what's next? Survivor Series.
Yeah, elimination matches finally returned, but the big issue there is is it gonna be just guys on the same team fighting all night?
Right.
You can't overuse that tool for 3 straight hours or whatever. You have to be very selective about it.
Right, and I really personally want babies versus heels. I don't want a mashup because if they
everything's going to be a mashup though.
Yeah, see, that's like you said. There's going to be too much infighting going on, and they're billing this as this is the only night where Raw and SmackDown come together to battle it out. So it's. I have a feeling that's going to be the case, too. It would be awesome to see the ladies' elimination match. And how about them billing Goldberg and Brock as, Fantasy Warfare. Is real. Which, Goldberg comes out, everybody, gives him the whole welcome back deal, but when Brock came out the next week, they're all chanting for Brock. Goldberg doesn't stand a chance.
Especially not in Toronto.
Yeah, especially not in Toronto. Well, he lives in Saskatchewan, right? Brock?
And Goldberg is the guy that ended Bret Hart's career.
Oh, right. More or less ended what we remember Bret Hart as being. Right. So, yeah. So, Survivor Series, that'll be fun. Probably going to go after we're done here and after the game's over, catch up on Raw or watch a little Raw during halftime. But I think that's all I have for this week, Grant. You have anything you want to add as far as any CWF news goes?
Oh, let's see. We'll return to the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium this Saturday, November 5th, with explosive elements.
I know this show. I was a part of the very first Explosive Elements, if I'm not mistaken.
Would be mistaken, but that's fine. It was the most important. The first one was in 2001.
Oh, okay. I was a part of the revival then.
Yes. You were. The Summer of Maddie officially kicked off with your Explosive Element.
Oh my gosh, yes. The Summer of Maddie. That was my quest, fans, as to become the CWF Mid-Atlantic Television Champion, and I did that. And for about 3 months, I beat everyone, which never happened. So...
you always got that one up on Trevor Lee.
For now, yeah. Yeah. So, God, that was fun. But I'm definitely looking forward to coming back up there. I don't know, less than 2 months, I guess. So everyone, Explosive Elements is coming up this Saturday, and then in 2 weeks, Ultimate Survivor 26, which is always a fun night.
Oh yeah. It'll be a packed house in there that night, and I'm such a big mark for elimination matches, and I know guys are just gonna kill it.
And then the triathlon match is the one that I'm kind of eyeing up, because I think that one's. You guys have already announced the three guys for it, right? Or have you announced everyone for the triathlon?
No, we just said the babyface dream team of Trevor Lee, Andrew Everett, and Chet Sterling will be one side of that triathlon.
Well, this is just me. Ain't no way the three of those guys are gonna get along. Talking about recycling the Survivor Series matches and infighting goes. I don't know, man. I see a little bit of something between Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett, like the one-upsmanship. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like they're competitors, and
they're the next generation Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I mean they are competitors, and even though they're on the same team, the one-upsmanship is going to be definitely in effect. But not just that. The wild card in that match is Chet Sterling, because he's a hell of a competitor too, and entertaining as hell. But speaking of entertaining as hell, do you know who my new favorite wrestler in CWF is?
Yes, I do, because it's everyone's favorite wrestler.
Who is this?
White Mike Jordan.
Oh my God. This dude is amazing. I watched his match with from Worldwide. I think it was last week. Who did
Snooty Fox.
Oh yeah, against Snooty Fox. Yo, yeah. White Mike chops him in the chest. It does like the most perfect, like, oh God. Like, I mean, his level, like, I've always been a fan of, like, when I wrestled, I was always like, well, what if Ace Ventura was a wrestler? I mean, that sell that he did was total, like, Jim Carrey, like, oh God. It's fantastic, man. I love
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna do a White Mike story here. Have me and you talked about him and Aaron Biggs situation?
No, Was there heat there?
Okay. No.
Okay.
No, you can leave. You do not need to edit this out of the podcast, because I've told this story plenty of times.
Okay.
So this is like the first time White Mike's ever wrestled on one of our shows, and he wrestles Aaron Biggs.
Oh God.
Aaron Biggs, of course, if you're familiar with him, he's like 400 plus pounds, and his finisher is a Fez press.
Right.
So anyway, during the course of the match, White Mike takes some enormous bump from Aaron. And as soon as he lands, White Mike says, "I think I pooped myself." Hilarious on its own, okay?
But he did.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Hilarious on its own. And of course, we all bust out laughing because White Mike's delivery is impeccable, and I cannot do it justice. So we flash forward a couple of shows, and they're doing a scramble, and White Mike and Aaron cross paths again. White Mike takes another enormous bump, rolls to my side of the ring where I'm shooting, and I'm not lying. He crawls under the ring, and it is the worst smell I've ever smelled while standing on an apron taping. It was absolutely atrocious. And the first thing I was like, oh my God, he really did it this time.
Are you fucking kidding me? That is disgusting.
Look, I would have
started throwing up.
I've been on that apron. I've seen guys puke. I've seen, I've smelled a million things over the past 20 years, but I've never smelled a smell that was emanating from under that ring when White Mike went under it after taking that bump.
Okay, so was he out of the match at this point?
He returned to get eliminated at some point, but that was essentially his next to last spot.
Wow. So how did the boys react to that?
I cannot say he actually did it. I have no proof.
Oh.
I only know what I smelled.
Well, maybe he let off a fart bomb or something.
Right, but the fact that he, kind of called his Babe Ruth-like shot the show before beautifully symmetrical.
Wow. Jeez. Well, I'm going to have to program into the Power Glove people being forced to crap their pants. Because that is amazing. Well, White Mike, I can't wait to meet you. Is he going to be at Battlecade? He better be at Battlecade, brother. He better be. Oh, yeah, that was, I watched that match and I laughed my ass off. It was like, I think it was right as I got home. Right as I got home, I watched the match. Because I was just laying on the couch, just totally out of it. I was like, let's see what the worldwide was this week. So anyway, well, Grant, that's all I got. On that note, I'll smell you later. But yeah, no. Next week we have, hopefully it'll be a recovery week for the Eagles and Packers and Chargers. As well as, maybe you could tell me a little bit about what happened at Explosive Elements 2016. Sure. But for Grant Sawyer, I'm Matt DeSimone. Thank you for joining us on the Wrestling with Football podcast, and we will see you again.